up to another good morning. Time to go. Oh, we are all looking for adventure. We are all looking for adventure. We are all
Welcome back to the 3x5 Life
podcast. Our mission here is purpose-driven productivity, and we are diving into, actually last week we talked about minimalism.
Yes.
We switched roles. Could you tell? We're trying something new. Brian's a little bit better at the intro, but last week we talked about minimalism. This week we were talking about, Brian?
Intentional play.
Intentional play.
Also known as dates. So intentional play, but we call it play, not dates, even though we're going to be calling it dates a little bit today, but that's what we call it internally at our house. So this was driven through, so I'm going to talk about it from the lens of our kids, and then Jesse's going to dive into like couples like us.
Mm-hmm.
So I read a book, I don't know, 3 years ago, maybe, that's called The Family Board Meetings. Awesome book. I'm in a mastermind group where actually the author is in that mastermind group. And basically the concept of it is we all do, if you're a parent, and this is for you parents out there, we all try to have these dates with our kids, and they're just kind of sporadic, and we are like, okay, what can I do? Some one-on-one time. Maybe I'll just go kick the soccer ball for 30 minutes. And in this book, he really breaks down, okay, let's be super intentional. He says, have a date with your kid once a quarter. I know that sounds very corporate, but there's some reason behind that. Have it be like a whole afternoon or a whole morning. So like a solid like 4 hours. Have your phone away. So those are kind of some of the rules behind it. But what's interesting is kind of the cadence of every quarter is it builds anticipation in the dreaming for your kid or your son, daughter to know it's coming. So you have, a date, and then like for the next, 3 months, you're kind of like, all right, what should we do next? And you put a date on the calendar and they know it's coming up. And he argues not to have it on the weekends, have it like Monday through Friday. So like you're almost like pulling them out of school for a half day early dismissal to make it like really special. And then have like that activity that you're doing, and then have some type of meal involved where you're talking over meals. But what I found was the most intriguing part, Jesse, is he talks about like the last like 30, 45 minutes of the date to like stop at a park or something and just sit back on a bench and just talk. Like obviously you're talking the whole date, but it kind of like carves out this time where you kind of ask them about how life is and ask those questions. And what I'm hoping, so my daughter is 7 and my son's 5, is that when she's 14, she knows that every quarter she's going on this date with dad, and those are kind of obviously going to change over time. But if something's really bothering her and she doesn't feel quite comfortable talking to me about it, she'll be like, all right, I have that date next week with dad, and maybe I'll bring it up because I know at the last 30 minutes of our date, we'll probably just sit back and talk because she knows what to expect. Mm-hmm. And then it just creates this like little special, like, I don't know, this memory bank of time spent together and intentional time spent together where your phone's away and the fun anticipation of these consistent dates.
And I've seen, so our daughter Hadley, she gets so excited to actually plan them herself. So Bry's very strategic about letting her dictate the kind of what they're going to do, like the activity piece of it. And usually it stems from something that she's currently interested in. So it might be like she wants to learn how to play golf. And so she really wanted Bryan to teach her how to play golf. And so they'll go to like a driving range, and it's an activity that she decided she wanted to do because she's interested in whatever it is, which I think makes it really, really special. And then that you do always share a meal with her, but she, leading up to it, gets so excited. And then when she comes home, she's just like super energized to talk to me about it. And I get to hear what they did. And then it sparks excitement for Nash, our son, because then he gets to do these special dates. And on the flip side, and I'm sure you kind of recognize that when Bry's with one of our kiddos, because we have 2 kids, it gives me alone time with the other one. So, and then I try the same thing to do some play around those dates when I have the other kiddo. So it's been really awesome for our family, and our kids, they definitely look forward to it. We put it on our big life resume calendar, which we can talk about another time. So that's it's on the calendar, and they know it's coming. Do you want me to jump to relationships?
Yeah, for sure.
So did we start this before kids or after kids? I can't remember.
I think it was after kids.
It was after kids. Okay. So we started doing monthly dates. It probably was right after Hadley. It was a while that we were doing it. And the thing about these dates, we started to recognize that most of our dates were at night, and we would just go out to dinner, which was awesome. We'd go out to dinner, but we'd sit across from the dinner table from each other and most of the time talk about the kids. Yes. And so we started to recognize both of him we're both very playful, and we both have always loved being outside, and we've always loved to do these like hobbies. And we found that we were finding less and less time to do it because we were new parents. So we started to make these rules and guidelines around what these date days would look like. And one of the things that we put into place was that it would be planned every other month by that person, and it would be in alignment to something that they loved or were interested in. So we would take turns, and it would be a day date. It wasn't at night. So we would have, either my parents or his parents come over, and they would watch the kids, and we would be, all afternoon together. What we would go like stand up paddleboarding was one that we did that I think you planned. I planned this like yoga meditation 5K. So it was like called like it was a mindfulness triathlon, and it was at the Philly Navy Yard. And so we did that together. You could go rock climbing, you could just go for a hike. You could go. So we planned these very like active concerts. I love concerts. So I would plan to go for a concert. And we found that it was really, really special that we got to be ourselves and play during those time periods. And it became more about like the experience and less about like a date, right? So I encourage you to bring that in the research behind play and childlike wonder and tapping into things that bring you joy, brings you back to that person who you are at your core. It separates you from being like a parent or, a wife. And it just gives you that moment to just like be, right? Be yourself, be that child. So COVID definitely has put a wrench in those plans. I don't think we've been on a date in a really long time, but we are going to start those back up now that we, things are opening back up and we have time to kind of go do these things. So I encourage you, if you haven't explored doing the day option, it's also fun to plan ahead. So even having a calendar for you and your significant other, or even just a family member or friend, plan days to play.
Well, and that's the thing, like scheduling it, because if you have it scheduled and like, okay, in August we're going to this concert at this date, or we're going to go, rock climbing or whatnot, and just having it there, lining up the babysitter in advance. Like this is just there, and you don't come up with excuses to not do it. And yeah, I mean, it's been great. It's just like the laughter compared to just like going out to dinner, having, a few drinks and then going home, pushing Jessie off a stand-up paddleboard, or like, just create some different memories that are just, more of like when you first started dating your significant other, like you used to do actual activities. You didn't just do dinner.
Yeah.
When you're courting someone, you're not like, let's just go do dinner all the time. Like you try to get to know them through activity. And that's where it's been fun to like reinvigorate that over the last few years. So
yeah, highly recommend.
Yeah. So again, the beginning of this podcast, family board meeting, I highly recommend that book to kind of get the cadence of those quarterly dates with your kids, and it should really light them up. And then add in play to your dates with your significant other. So until next week, I hope you enjoyed this episode.
And if you do go on a date with either anybody, a play date with anybody, and you want to share it in the Facebook community, we would love to get ideas. Maybe that can be something super fun where you share the ideas of what you are doing so that we can borrow and learn from each other.
Yeah. Awesome.
All right. Take care. Have a good week.
Hello world, wake me up to another good